Did you know the average American takes in over 60% of their daily calories in ultra-processed foods? I personally have cut out about 90% of ultra-processed foods from my diet, and I've already noticed significant health impacts on my daily life. My brain is a lot clearer, it's a lot more clear. I don't have as much trouble focusing, and I've already lost 10 pounds. So I believe that most health problems faced by modern Americans could be solved with just cutting out a majority of ultra-processed foods from everybody's diet. In this speech, I'm going to describe the harmful effects of ultra-processed foods, ways that you can live with them, and I'm going to define what ultra-processed foods are. Now, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this speech. So, the definition of ultra-processed foods is an industrially formulated edible substance that derived from natural food or synthesized from other organic compounds. These ultra-processed foods oftentimes include a lot of artificial colors, preservatives, and artificial flavors, which aren't really good for our health. They're edible, they're only considered edible foodstuffs and not really food by the government because it's for legal reasons. And ultra-processed food is also considered pre-digested. That's what scientists consider it called. They consider it to be pre-digested because of the way it's made. It's broken down to its food, like wheat, corn, and potatoes, and other starches are broken down to their molecular level and then reassembled in a slurry, which is the basis of most ultra-processed foods such as Pop-Tarts, cereals, and even white bread. And let me see my third point here. We're getting there. Oh yes, ultra-processed food is also linked with a lot of diseases such as diabetes, certain types of cancers, and heart disease. It also lacks a significant amount of nutrients that we need in our everyday diet, such as fibers and proteins. It mostly contains a lot of fats and carbohydrates, they're good for us, but in the high amounts that we constantly get them in ultra-processed foods, they're not really that good. So now we're going to move on to the healthy ways that we can live with ultra-processed foods. We can, one way to avoid them, the most prominent way to avoid them would be to cook at home. You want to eat a whole foods diet is what it's called. It's single ingredient foods such as, like vegetables, meat, rice, things like that. You don't really want to eat a lot of stuff with a lot of ingredients in it, especially ingredients that you can't understand, you don't know what it is. Like xanthan gum, who knows what xanthan gum is, right? You get it. So it's better to always cook at home. Not always, but it's usually better to cook at home. You want to eat ultra-processed food, not ultra-processed food, you want to cook it yourself. So there are 4 categories of how food is categorized, right? It is unprocessed, processed culinary ingredients, processed, and ultra-processed. The first 3 you can do at home. You can make all of that at home. It's like processed would be your fresh baked breads, your cheeses, things like that. Another pastas, that's processed. Processed culinary ingredients is going to be like salt, garlic salt, like spices, a lot of things like that just add flavor to a meal. And then unprocessed is your vegetables, your meat, fish, your basic things. Ultra processed though can't be made in your house. It has to be made in a factory, which is why it's ultra processed. We can't recreate it. It only exists for cheap production from all these companies to try and make a lot more money. And while they are really bad for you, you can still eat them in moderation. That's how you want to do it. Say maybe 1 to 2 times a week you want to have your ultra processed foods. Maybe I'd say like 95% of your diet needs to be whole foods, healthy foods that like have nutrients and goodness for you. The other 5% could be ultra processed foods, cookies, milkshakes, brownies, whatever you want, whatever you want. Just in moderation is the best way to do it. And now I'm going to wrap up the speech, and everyone here should have learned the definition of ultra-processed foods, ways to live with it, and the ways that it negatively impacts you, and why you should be moving away from it and trying to live a more healthy and sustainable life.